Hey, it's Carrie, and I would love if you shared your story with us. You are listening to Camouflage Beauty, a podcast of shared experiences for military and veteran women. Hey, everybody, listen up. Today, I have an extremely special guest. We've been talking about this for months, and so I'm excited to have with us today one of the Air Force's top influencers. If you don't know who Keyona Campbell is, you literally just have not been on social media. She is responsible for interviewing just about everybody about everything that is going to affect and impact your career. We've seen her and her team on so many different platforms, and she's here today to talk to us about what it's like to be in the spotlight and to be, the new Air Force influencer. So help me welcome her today. What's up, girl?
What kind of intro? I'm like, man,
I am so excited to have you here because you are always the person interviewing everybody else with everything that you do on social media. And it just seems like so much. The mentorship that you have, the impact, your reach is so far in today's new Air Force. And so we're going to talk about that today. Tell us about yourself.
I don't think it's as glamorous as you hype me up, and I'm usually the hype man. So my name is Keyona Campbell. I am a Master Sergeant or an E7 for any of my military folks that's out there. I've been in the Air Force almost 16 years this year. I'm a personnelist by trade. And it's so ironic because the job I previously had, right as COVID was kicking off, was innovation. And so we had to, see what was new and trending and try to get after certain things. Prior to that, the unique job I had in policy, I was working, our customer base was dependents who are not military, right? And so on the military side, a lot of our stuff is on the government computers, systems, and all that. But when you're talking about dependents, we had to get on social media. And so had I known that the time I spent in that office kind of prepared me for this space, I would not have believed it. So we had to get on Facebook and do Facebook Lives. And the supervisor I had was a phenomenal woman, Kim Schuler. She still is. And she was pushing me to take certain social media writing classes or anything to, perfect that craft. And so you fast forward to COVID. And so my general at the time was like, we need you guys to make sure that our folks get the information of what's there. So just doing that, it kind of opened up this chapter that I'm in right now where I didn't necessarily think I was doing anything special per se, right? But to just put the information out there. But what I've learned, being connected socially on social media, there were so many different platforms that brought so many different things to the table. And so I would push out information that I felt was valid for certain groups, which turned into invitations for me to be a part of their admin team to moderate behind the scenes. And so since 2020, I want to say, that has started the what you see right now. So right now, I think I'm known for one of the groups that page, the audience or the group members, they want that live interaction like this. They want that kind of dialogue. The other ones, it's more of a repository type of group for me, where they just want to go in there and get information. So I am known in the forefront mostly for one group, but I am an admin on 6 different groups. And so in the range between those groups is 16K all the way down to maybe 1,000. And so I did that intentionally so that I can change my voice or my perspective of what I push into those different pages to, just switch it up, not knowing that it was, give me a little practice. So that's me. That's me. Unless there's something.
Well, honey, that's a whole lot. And that's a whole lot. And I'm so glad that you brought up the fact that you are a part of 6 groups, because I think a lot of times people only associate you with the one that we see the most of, which is UMU. Shout out to your entire team at UMU. You cannot do it by yourself. And so Yeah, but the thing is, there's so many other groups that you are a part of that the
I know.
information is out there. And you have become, in my mind anyway, like when someone calls me and says, "Hey, I heard this new policy change," or "Did you hear about this?" I'm like, check Keyona's page,
Oh
right?
my
Which
goodness. Yes,
is crazy. That's a big responsibility for you,
it
right? Because I'm
is.
pretty sure I'm
It
not
is.
the only person doing that. So before I check
You're not.
my purse or the portal or whatever, I'm about to go look on UMU or Key's page and see what's
Oh my
on
goodness.
there to make sure and do my fact check, which is it has been phenomenal to have that at my fingertips, right? I'm not always in a position where I have a work computer and I
Right.
need the information right there. And so I know that you guys are giving us credible information, valuable information. And so it has become a one stop shop for myself and other leaders across the Air Force as well. So with this social media life, right? Because
Mhm.
all for you listening that you may not know. So she just told you the backstory of how this started for her, and her job kind of morphed into this, super mentor opportunity for her. Except she didn't have social media for herself. So
At
this is
all.
not your comfort zone, right? This ain't what you do in a regular basis. So to get from there to here, what is that like?
Man, so I'm gonna tell you, these social media platforms, they gonna get you. So in order for you to moderate or be an admin on Facebook, because that is the dominant social media platform of choice that I push
Mhm.
my content through, you have to have your own personal account. And so back, I want to say back in 2012, I actually disconnected from Facebook. I was on Instagram, Snapchat, but that pretty much was it. And so to again be a moderator and admin, you had to have your own page. So when I went down this journey, I'm like, do I just reactivate my page? And I was like, no. And so the reason was I felt like I was spending way too much time there. And then there were certain things personally with my family that was going on that I'm like, this is a major distraction towards my goals and the things I wanted to accomplish. So I just went ahead and let that go. So I ended up just starting a new page, and for the longest, I only had two pictures up there, and I put it at the top, and I think it's still up there, and I may just need to take it tweak it a little bit, but it's like, this is not my personal, this is not a personal page, this is for professional use only. So like to this day, I'm not my mama friend on social media. I'm not my a couple of my cousins I am, but it's intentional. So when I am on Facebook, it's intentionally for professional and personal development. So it has definitely been crazy. I had to add a couple more pictures because and I get it. A lot of people thought my page was fake because I only had two pictures, me and my blues and me and my ABUs. And
Yeah.
that was it. And I was like,
Who is this imposter?
right,
If you ain't got a lot of pictures, I don't know you. This could be a lie.
right, right. So it kind of like, I'm like, man, so I had to think quick. So I luckily again I have Instagram, but it's different. You don't have to like the urge of writing a post or a status or whatever. So yeah, so it was easy to push some pictures over, but yes, that's why and I still don't really like Facebook. But yes.
So you have done something amazing for us, right? And in the middle of COVID, and when I say you, everyone out here
Yes.
listening, we're interviewing Keyona Campbell today as what I call the Air Force's social media influencer, right? However, we know that nobody can do this without a team. It is a team of them behind all the pages that she manages, but today we're just talking to her. So the beauty of what it is that you do, and I think you don't give yourself enough credit, you brought us information in a time where we were grappling for stuff. Like it wasn't nothing out there. We've never had a pandemic. We didn't know what to do. Life as we knew it was different. But your innovative approach is not just for social media. Seems like innovation is a little bit in your background. So tell us about that.
Yes. So I think the biggest thing, the biggest lesson during the pandemic was to understand and know where the customers were or what was their lymphax or what were their struggles. And so I have a lot of friends that were overseas at the time or in certain areas where they did not have a government laptop. So they could not bring their laptops home. And so then it was okay, could they go to work? If they could, they only could go for a certain amount of time, if at all. So there were certain things that I definitely wanted to push out there. But I've always been a creator or a creative. type of personality, and I'm known for making a checklist. I'm known for having a toolbox. I'm known for having a tool. And so one of the things that pushed me into no, it stopped. Pause. Can you still hear me?
Yes, ma'am. So we're gonna give her a second to come back because here's the thing about this social media life, right? And so I've had to learn over time that this has to be a forgiven industry in what it is that we do, because you can't control the internet, you can't control the lightning, the weather.
Right.
It's always these different things that come up in the way, and you just have to learn how to roll with it and be flexible. And so this is exactly real time what we're talking about here. To be able to sit on a platform with whoever it may be, right? And to just roll through it, because you have to learn how to manage that interview. You have to learn how to manage that person that you're talking to, because they're probably on the other side of it freaking out a bit because maybe they've never done this or have a lot of experience with it. And so for them, if you are losing it or you're freaking out, which I've definitely done early on when I just started podcasting, the person on the other end is probably going to do the same as well. And so a part of this social media lifestyle and influencer journey, or whatever you may call it, comes with a lot of flexibility, and the ability to remain calm and patience in the midst of adversity, in social world. Because listen, honey, it's going to happen. I promise you. So this is real
Oh
time.
goodness. So if y'all don't know, right. If you don't know, I'm currently in the DMV area. And so with us having this snow and the weather, the electricity and the internet has been dropping. So that's what that is.
And that's just
I think
the
we're
way
good.
it goes, man. Like that's the way it is. But we make it happen. We make it happen anyway. It's just what we do.
Yeah.
So now that we
Yes.
have you back, let's actually go back a little bit. Let's talk about
Okay.
Keyona as a person before you even joined the military. Tell us how you even got to this spot.
Okay, so I was born in Cleveland, Ohio. That's where both of my parents were born and raised. And so when I was 1.5, 2, we moved to Florida, Melbourne, Palm Bay area near Patrick Air Force Base. And so that's where I went to the every school and graduated high school from. And so for me, I didn't necessarily know what I wanted to do once I graduated, but my childhood best friend, she was going to the Air Force. So she was so gung ho about it. And what I liked was when she came home to visit, she always had a sense of calm where she wasn't worried about the next dollar. She wasn't struggling. And it just looked like she had this confidence about her. And so I have relatives that enlisted. One of my oldest cousins that I look up to, he was in the Navy for, I think, 11 years. And so I wanted to do the Navy because that's what he did. And so when I told him, he was like, no, the hell you not. You're going to go to the Air Force. I couldn't get into the Air Force. That's where you're going to go. And so I was like, okay. So my family they play a big part in my life, especially in influence. And so I know for them, because of the girly girl I was, I knew they probably would have been like, no, just wait. Or are you sure? Let's try this or try that. So I told only one family member, and they were like, okay, so we'll tell the family once you sign and get everything done. So that's exactly what we did. And so I enlisted that way. That's how my journey started. And my first base was in Portugal. So I thought it was in South America because my classmates that were prior enlisted, that were cross training, told me it was in South America because in Brazil they speak Portuguese, until the lady brought out the map and showed me this little dot in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. So definitely was not where I thought I was going to be. I thought I was going to be close to the house, and I wasn't at all.
Oh, you were definitely not close to the house.
Definitely not. But I thought I was, because I'm trusting these NCOs that apparently didn't know geography, because they told me I was going to be in South America. I wasn't.
Listen, the Air Force has sent me places in the United States where I had to look up on a map, like, where? I ain't never heard of no Dayton, Ohio, or whatever it may be, right? So I understand, but what a great experience to be able to travel and start out your journey from Florida, Cleveland, Florida, to Portugal, and
Yes.
so then you are here. And so you have been not just a member of the A1 community, helping out with EFMP and just policy and whatever it is that you do now. Tell us about your current role and how you actually got there.
So as far as social media is concerned,
You know, as far as your job is concerned.
so so as far as my job, so I am a core personnelist, which is HR. But I do, I think one of the biggest things that they push us to do is be involved with professional and personal development. So I've always had close ties that way. And then I did not allow the geography or the distance of these different bases to stop me from collabing. So once I had my network and my connections, I think the pandemic actually just allowed me to do what I felt the urge and desire to do, which was reach individuals from no matter where they were. And so that's kind of how it started. And once the pandemic hit, it allowed me to kind of just my boss at the time was like, okay, this is what we need to do. We need to push this information out. And so initially I was nervous about taking on that because I'm like, it's just me. I don't know. And so she, after talking to my mentors, they had to remind me of other awards I've won. And I'm like, well, I guess I did. I guess I did. So when I first got to AFPC, the previous job that I had, there was a team of us where we authenticated or processed PCS orders. And so we're talking about all service members. That's active duty in the Air Force, E1 through E1 through 4-star general. So it was a lot, but we always had to answer the telephones. And so I was like, man, I wish that they could see, the customers could see where their orders were, and we didn't have to answer the phone because we could see it behind the scenes. And so there was these system guys that would come around and they would talk to us and they would tell us what they did. So I asked them, I said, if I can give you this, is there something that we can do to push this out? And so they were like, yeah. And I was like, really? And so ironically, the innovation or the API, the Airman Powered Innovation Program, was reinstated. And so they gave me a link. And so they told me to process it that way because what I was asking them to do was going to benefit a lot of individuals and I should get paid for it. And so I was like, well, I don't want to do it for that. They was like, no, you're going to do it for that. And so at the same time, I had airmen who were learning their job. With them learning their job, I didn't have time to sit down with them. So I came up with a system where I would assign them work. They would have a notebook that they would have to fill out every day. And if I did not get a chance to talk to them and look at them, at least I had this like summary sheet of what they experienced or what they were going through for their during their CDCs. And so it gave me time to look it up. But that's the way that we were able to communicate. And so then when my folks were testing, they were testing higher than the average for our AFSC. So then my superintendent at the time was like, okay, you should put this in for innovation as well. So I put in 2 different innovation ideas. The one about the education one, it got denied because of funding. But the one that I did about the PCS orders, it was approved. And so I was like, okay, so I get a message saying that it was approved. And I get a message from the finance side of the house telling me that I'm about to get some money. So I'm like, okay, whatever. The next thing I know, I get another email telling me that my innovation is going to they were going to be able to use the code that they created from my idea to touch 27 other programs. Wow. So I continued to get a couple checks until I reached the max for the API side of the house. And a lot of times people are like, how did you even come up with it? And so the thing that sparks my innovation when it comes to stuff like that is not necessarily of me being an inventor. It was this is the problem. How do we fix this? I don't speak bits and bytes, but I need this to do this. And it looks like something we already use. Mm-hmm. And so kind of just mirroring it together that way. And my mind just like twists it and turns it and makes it go. So while that was going on, even though I did not get approved for my education entry that I put in, the IG team, when they came around and they were just asking the training managers about their upgrade training stuff, they kept seeing my book and they were like, where do y'all get this document from? And so they at the time I was the staff sergeant. So they brought the IG folks over. The IG folks, they recognized me. And then the 2-star of our unit was like, now anybody who comes in through upgrade training, this is what they're going to do.
Wow.
This is what they're going to use. And so then one of my friends, they end up becoming the career assistance advisor on Lackland side. So then she asked me, would I be interested in teaching supervisors how to use this? Because they were like, it's the thing about what I created, it wasn't just for personnel, it could be for any AFSC. Mm-hmm. And the other reason why I found that it was important and critical was some of my troops were not personnelists. Some of them were in a different career field. But if they filled out this summary sheet, I could get with whoever their career field person was that I knew to say, hey, this is what they're talking about. Can we do X, Y, and Z? And so I taught the class, I want to say about maybe 20 times. And so teaching it to different supervisors, then it was superintendents. If you had individuals that failed, I had a program to help them get back on track where they would end up scoring higher than the average for whatever their career field was. And it was more so that old school repetition mode. And so for a while, people were asking me to send them that book, which I probably should put it out there. Probably should put it out. I forgot all about that. But yeah, so that kind of started so because of those big wins, once the military, the Air Force per se, went into this whole innovation mode because we had to do more with less, the A1 community felt like it was imperative for me to be placed in that office that was an innovation cell. And so then the pandemic hits. And so then it's like, okay, we couldn't necessarily do some of the things that we embarked on because of the pandemic, but they were like, if any of these different offices need assistance, help them. So I was like, okay. So that's how me being then on social media really took off, because my job.
So all I'm hearing is basically, so you've been dope. So this ain't nothing new. It's just that simple. Interview over, you've been dope, right? And so yes, please share that book with us, because supervisors at all levels and all AFSCs need a good tool to help them get through this. And what, your airmen are scoring higher than the average? Yeah. We need that. That needs to be out there. Matter of fact, just go ahead and publish it so your name is on it. And
right. Exactly.
You deserve for this as well. So you've been doing so many different things, and unfortunately, your face is out here everywhere. And with this life and social media, sometimes comes a dark side. It's not always as glamorous as people may see and think, even though you put a smile on the camera. So let's talk about some of those things now, and some of those experiences that you have had that disappointed you or discouraged you along the way.
Man. Okay, so during the beginning of the pandemic, one of the projects that I assisted with was when some of the PMEs were going from face-to-face to online. And so if you ever gone to the NCO Academy, there's a survey that they give you. And so one of the questions that they ask is that now that you're in and you've experienced this, how far do you think you would go? Will you still stay in and retire? Because you kind of are at that midway point by the time you get to the NCOA. And so what was disheartening was a lot of the females were saying that they probably would try to just go to master, maybe senior, and they didn't think it would be realistic for them to even try to be a chief or an E9 because they didn't see any that were in there, a lot of them for their career fields, or they didn't see any that were relatable, that didn't look like they were old, or didn't look like they were current, or vulnerable, transparent, or real. But the biggest outcry was that they just had not met or seen female chief master sergeants. May have seen one, may have seen two in a picture, but not necessarily face to face. And I was like, am I taking for granted the career field I'm in, being in the mission support and HR career field? Am I taking that for granted when a lot of these females that were saying that they're cops, they work on the flight line, they were more of an operational career field versus that mission support on those desk jobs. And so I felt like I wanted to do something, and I wanted to see if I could get a panel of female chiefs to just have these type of conversations and to give them hope, give them representation. And so a lot of my folks I wanted to do it with, they were nervous. They're like, no, let's not do that. And I'm like, you know what? I'll just do it myself. And I literally went Facebook Live on a very big dominant page that right now I think has close to 50, they're probably at 50K, Quarantine University, Air Force Quarantine University. I went live and I did a call out message, and I was like, I know these female chiefs. If you are out here, y'all tell me down below who is your female chief that you know has a theme music, that walks on water, that is, amazing, that's accountable. And when I tell you, it was so overwhelming, the flow and the love that came in. And so the dark piece that came with that was there were a lot of leaders and individuals who outranked me who were messaging me saying that I was a cancer to the military, saying that I was trying to cause a divide where there wasn't one. And so I then was like, okay, well, how do I back this up with numbers and statistics? So it then forced me, but because of my experience being in the curriculum I'm in, we always have, we are let me give you the reference. It's not me telling you this is what the reference says. So then to find that stuff, I didn't have top cover because it was me doing this on my own. So it got extremely overwhelming. It got to the point where some individuals were even trying to come up to my job to have a conversation with me because they just felt like a lot of their airmen were gravitating to me, and it was not the message that they wanted out there. And so it was very disappointing because if you know me, you know that I never, my intent is to never offend or to go against what our culture is and what we know to do. So that definitely, and because of that, I end up stopping that series abruptly because it literally got extremely overwhelming. We're not talking like 5-6 messages. We're talking about 50 the first time, 300-400 messages the following time, another 500 to 600 the next time. And so of those, maybe a good 100 are good, and the bulk of it was bad. And it's easy on the outside to say, don't listen to it, but it got extremely overwhelming. I'm like, I'm a woman first, I'm a person first, or I see this person's name and I can look them up to see that they are insert a rank that's higher than the E7. I can't have this conversation. It was too much. So that definitely was very disappointing for sure.
Yeah, no. So, it's surprising that we still have these conversations and these things are still happening from our Air Force peers and leaders. But people are generally afraid of change and something they may not understand. And so I'm glad that you didn't allow that to get to you, although it can be overwhelming because that's basically cyberbullying. That's really what it is.
I mean, and you also have to think like not only was I dealing with this from being a female perspective from that lane, you know what I mean? Because at the same time, that's when we had the female army that female army what was her name? And she was missing. And then so coming to find she was at Fort Hood. And so we had that going on, and then the disparity report for race that was going on at the same time. So then it was I was being called in to have conversations of how I felt being Black in the Air Force while my son I'm dropping him off to daycare, and we sitting next to the cops at a red light, and he's like, oh, they're gonna kill me. My friends at school told me that they don't like Black people and they don't like this and that. My baby was 4 at the time. And I'm like, what in the world? So it was the combination of so many things all at one time where it was like, man, I had to take a step back. But I will say from the moment that I started, the good that came with that, and I know you didn't ask yet, but the good that came with that was to see the female chiefs rally around me from the first time I even did it. The first time I went live, Chief Master Melvina Smith was the first one in my inbox, like, you don't know me, but I know you, and I know like what you did needed to be done. It takes courage. And she was like, I'm so proud of you. And this was before we knew who our 19th Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force was going to be. This is when Team 18 was still in the seat. And so she was like, but with that, we want to make sure that we keep you encouraged and rally around you about this because this means so near and dear. And because of that, just the love and respect that I have received and that I give to those female chiefs is just, I'm just so thankful and blessed because of that, for sure.
Oh yeah, so I totally remember that post because that was my first interaction with you, and
yes,
that's probably how most people saw you for the very first time. And I commented on there, and I also put the chief, who I still say now. Shout out to you, Chief Christina Warner. She is the chief that makes me stay here. Theme music playing when she walked down the hallway.
Come on, that theme music. That's flowing on water.
Own theme music, and she's not perfect, right? But I saw someone that was relatable. And you are so right. Before I met her, I never saw another female chief that made me feel like I could ever achieve that rank. So you're right. And Chief Melvina Smith, I don't know her, but I've heard so many great, amazing things about her. I'm gonna have to hit her up. So, ma'am, if you're
Phenomenal.
watching, just expect a phone call or
Phenomenal.
inbox. But I've heard
She is
great
the
things
go
about her.
between.
But what
Yes,
she
she's the
did
go
is
between.
true leadership, right? She's
Yes.
like, I don't know you, but
Yep.
I see what you're trying to do, and I'm going to support you.
It
And
took it
that,
a step further because apparently they would get together, and so she went from doing that to, hey, what's your address? Because we want to start mailing you cards, and she was like, we want to mail you a gift. And so I started receiving cards from these female chiefs of how them being able to have these conversations, and that sparked the awareness of,
wow.
like, literally, I'm like, if we look at it, I want to say I'm going to use like a guesstimate, but let's say
Mhm,
there's 2,000 chiefs in the Air Force, less than 1,000 were females,
mhm,
and then of that, like, less
mhm,
than 50 were Black females.
mhm,
So to put that into numbers, and we are on the active duty side 300,000 deep.
mhm.
It is one of those, like, we just wanted to, like, let me give somebody hope to say, like, no, baby, like, you can do this. There's somebody out here that looks just like you, and
Yeah.
looking like you doesn't necessarily mean you look like me from that aspect, because although to see some phenomenal African American or Black female chiefs was beautiful, to see some that were loud and outspoken like me, but also sensitive, to see
Yep.
that they could find that tactfulness and still stay true to themselves,
Yep.
that was a level of hope. And a lot of those individuals did not look like me. Shout out to Chief Master Sergeant Janae Walker. She is a security forces chief. When I tell you that has grit and will tell you what it is, and
Mhm.
let you know, but has a heart for the people and accountability. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
they rallied around me.
And that's it. Like I said, the people that messaged you, right, and telling you that you're creating a divide where there wasn't one, they missed it. They missed it.
For sure.
Having someone that looks like you, having representation goes much deeper than just a race or a cultural thing. It's to understand that I am outspoken and someone can pull me by the ear and say, come on, girl, I'll help you get together. I'm the
Right.
same way, and you can still do this as who you are.
Right.
Because I grew up in the Air Force where who I was as a person, I was told I wouldn't fit in. I wasn't the Air Force's
Mhm.
poster child because, unfortunately, I have an RBF and I'm pretty outspoken. So, sometimes that didn't work, but it was those
Right.
strong female leaders who allowed me to learn that as a woman we can command respect and not have to demand it. And I needed that to be able to get where I am today.
Facts.
So those conversations, man, you have talked to, listen, everybody from the top of the Air Force down. You have definitely sat down with some of the most influential people in today's Air Force, the leaders that we need to hear from, who we're now getting a different look into their lives and
Right.
perspectives versus just some random, you know, Christmas email that comes out once a year or twice a year. I am
Yeah.
your leader and I'm here for you. Now we
Yeah.
get to see them as people. Much thanks to you and the folks on your team and some of the platforms that you work on. So let's talk about some of those interviews and how do people, let me back up for a second.
Okay.
How do some of your peers or other people approach you about the attention? Because that's a lot of attention. And some people can't handle that. They feel like you get in the limelight a little bit too much. How is that part?
To be honest, I think me having a circle of influence before even going into that space, the ones who know me for real, they know I'm very sensitive, and I care about what people think, and they don't like that I care about what people think. And
Mhm.
so anytime there was anything that wasn't constructive criticism, that just was, I call them thug thumbs, folks that were saying, whatever. I always, if it had me questioning my intentions or wanted me to take a pause for accountability, because intent and impact are two different things. My
Mhm.
intentions could be in the right place, but if my impact is not matching, so then I
Mhm.
will go to my circle of trust that were opposite of me, that did not think like me, that weren't, we had certain core things that were the same, just to as a space of like, am I missing the mark on this? It allowed me to have tougher skin when it comes down to stuff like that. But for the most part, my peers have been very welcoming of this, and it actually It is a good sense. It's a good feeling. Sometimes you have to be the change that you want to see. Because a lot of times that cattiness or not coming together, if somebody thinks of something first, then it's I can't be cool with you because you my competition versus this. I'm like, there's so much room at this table. There's so much room, and there's only one you. There's only one me. And when folks are like, I want to do it, but it's everybody doing it, or they're like, why are you doing this? Everybody is doing this. And so somebody had asked me that one time, and I told them, I was like, have you ever gone down the bread aisle at a grocery store? And so I'm an analogy person. I'm silly. I'm the hype man, but I'm an analogy person. So I'm like, seriously, have you gone down the bread aisle? They were like, yeah. And I said, do you see how many different brands there are? And so if I am a Sara Lee fan, I don't care what brand they have. I'm going to get Sara Lee. Or if your preference is Nature's Own, I don't care what other brands are out there. I'm gonna go down there. But those bread companies don't say, well,
I can't make bread.
I can't make no bread. Great value. Like I can't do it because they'll say this is similar to whatever. So it never stopped my light with that. But I think the kudos that I receive a lot of times, especially from the ones who I didn't know, point being the two of us being able to come together. It gave me some hope that it's like, okay, there are like-minded individuals that you could, it don't take nothing away from you to say, girl, you did that. Yeah. Or I'm so proud of you. Or hey, I'm trying to do this. Can you help me? Because I don't know how to. Or like people, I'll share things and I don't know the person from anything. And they're like, how you know such and such? You don't have to. To me, it's if you're going to support. And if I'm looking at it, if it resonates or if it hits close to home, I'm like, oh, this is value added. I'm going to go ahead and push it. And so, but for the most part, it has definitely been very positive. I've had to educate as well, because for me, I can't speak for everybody else. Me being a personnelist and having that background, I try to protect the integrity of what I post. So if there are official messages that do come down, I try to always back it up with the reference, the link, a PDF file or whatever, and showing our peers, listen, we don't want big A airmen to go to just the internet or just to Facebook for this. However, we know that they're there. We need to be up there and kind of look, just like I know we don't like to use the reference, but just like with our kids, let me see what you're looking at. Let me come over here and get on this or whatever. And then teach them there's certain pages I'm going to go to where I know is that inconsistency is going to always show too. So, but it's been really good for the most part. Yeah,
that's awesome, man. I'm so glad to hear that, because you're so right. There's so much room at the table, and we're gonna pull up a seat for you and teach you and show you and help you along the way. And that's what we're supposed to do. Definitely grow together. So I love that that's happening. Now, out of your big interviews, you are getting to know these people. You recently sat down, you and your team on UMU specifically, recently sat down with the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force. Like, first of all, yes, a couple of us have met different ones over time, but to sit down and to have a personal conversation with these leaders, right? Not just her, but just up and down the chain, all the people, a personal conversation, right? Face to face, through the internet, face to face, to ask some personal questions that you may have never otherwise had the opportunity. What have you learned through those conversation and processes?
To not allow what seems impossible stop you from even trying. I've never gone into any space of like, I've done this and so with that, with the UMU group, us writing down what our not our rules, but what our goals were, what we wanted to accomplish and what we wanted to do, us actually sitting down and thinking through it. I think being able to actually have that type of interview was like, man, it doesn't, to me, it's one of those, like, the worst a person can say is no. So I'm glad that we did not allow who she is, the position that she sits in, to stop us. Like, man, she's not going to say yes because look at who she is. And I was like, well, I mean, the worst you can say is no. And so then I'm like, but we were smart about it. It taught us that if we come correct, you come correct. And that was what she said in the interview as well. If you come confident and competent, that empowerment piece is golden. And so before we even sent an email or even sent a request. We went to individuals who either have worked in similar offices, who worked in that office in the past, or individuals who have to court on those different things to say, what should our approach be? How will we go about doing this? And it was not easy. You know what I mean? It took us a while for it to connect because, realistically, what her job is. So being able to find a pocket, a moment, what I loved was the human side of her, where she was, not so much apologetic, but like, listen, we wanted to, but she was so understanding, wanted us to understand the why behind, the time that we put in our request. And when we were able to sit down, I'm like, she don't owe us none of that. But I
At
love the fact
all.
that she did that, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That because that shows that she respects individuals' times and their requests and stuff. But it just, to me, just rings true of like the worst an individual could say is no, and to just try, because
Yeah.
you'll never know unless you try. And for me, I'm like, okay, I want to come correct. It's, for me, it was I don't want to ask what everybody else asks or want to sit down to get the inside scoop of blah, blah, blah. None of that stuff. Like, for me, having that type of mentorship or having that type of connection, one of the most critical types of conversation anybody could have with another person is vulnerability and
Hmm.
transparency
Hmm.
and personal experience,
Yeah.
because that puts you in those type of places. And so when you're talking about reaching individuals, when you're able to be vulnerable and transparent, that builds trust on both sides. So then I'm glad we were able to show a different perspective of her, to show her in a different light, to show that she is a woman, a mother, a wife, an airman. She the things that we struggle with. Don't think that just because of the position that she's in, the highest enlisted position, that she does not bleed, that she does not have feelings, she don't get tired, she doesn't have to take care of herself, you know what I mean? Or she doesn't have life experiences. And so I think, if anything, it just told us that, like, it taught me that anything is possible.
Right.
You just have to be willing to put in the work, and that sometimes it's going to take a little more work than what we would do for anything else, but it was so worth it. So I'm extremely thankful and grateful that we were able to do it.
Yeah. So what I love, like you said, I've seen her do a couple other things, and she's been very open about sharing her life, and she's big on social media as well, right?
Yeah.
But there was something very different about this interview for me with this one. One particularly because I can always go to her page. She does a lot of things on her page, but what I felt like in
Yes.
this approach is she took the opportunity to come where we were. And that
Yes.
made such a big difference to me. I was like, okay, let me grab my coffee cup because she's dope. She's
Yep.
in my living room, right?
Yep.
And I
Yep.
think that showed so much about her as a person, as a leader, and as a woman. I got to see the mother side of her. And she was just having these open, vulnerable conversations. And so, Chief Bass, we love you. We love you. We love what you're doing.
Yes.
You're just
Well, let
in
me
your
say something to
role.
that. Yes, let me say something to that. So when we put in our request, for us, it was we wanted to come correct. We wanted
Hmm.
to we wanted to be relaxed enough to where we did not sound like we weren't authentic, but we
Hmm.
also wanted to have honor and respect for the person who we were talking to. So
Absolutely.
imagine, so we're asking like her team, like, do you want us to be in uniform of the day? What are we doing? So initially it was uniform of the day, and it was an earlier time. And I
Hmm.
kid you not, I want to say it was the day before, maybe 2 days before, when she was going over her schedule for the week, we got a call back where it was like, per her request, if this is how you all show up to you all's live events in your civilian clothes at this time, I want to be where you guys are.
I love
She didn't
that.
know what she
No,
did
she
not.
did not.
And
But for
so
her to
what
even recognize that says so much about her as a leader. I love that.
and you could tell she was genuinely present, you know what I mean? And so we were able to have time with her before and after. And so again, with the team, because I do want to talk about the other groups that I am an admin on, but right now in particular for UMU, I have not physically met all of the admin. I want to say it's six or seven of us behind the scenes. And so I just love the fact that we take care of each other.
Yeah.
And we fight for each other. We advocate. So for me, it was for us, the ones that were interviewing, we were like, can we still want the team to be able to have FaceTime as well? And she was open to that, and it did not feel rushed. It felt very authentic and true.
Yeah.
And just for us to be able to have that opportunity, it was really good. But she wanted to meet us where we were, and that was her words. And it was so she was, what time do they usually do this? You know what I mean? So it then was like, man, you're making time for us. You know what I mean? And so we were so excited to have her there. And she, when you start, you could see she was like, "Why am I so excited to be here with y'all?" She was present with us, and you could tell she was genuinely like enjoying the conversation, and she was present in it. And we asked questions, you know, because they unpack the journey and the journey of an individual. And what I love about that segment that we do, that's called the Hot Wash, is we asked anybody who we interview for that particular segment, we asked the same questions, but all the answers is different, which is the point, to show that everybody's journey is different, even if you are faced with the same challenge or same thing. Your journey, your stories, your thing versus the next is going to be different, X, Y, and Z. So I love that. And a lot of these leaders, and she did not shy away from if there were times where she may have fallen short. And I think that that's very important as well, because we have a generation that's coming up that they look up to these senior leaders, but then in their mind, they're like, anybody who makes a mistake, that I can't follow them, not realizing these individuals right here, like, they're not perfect, and to allow that space to be created, I think it's extremely, it was humbling, because that means she had to trust us, that for our platform, that there was a level of honor and respect, that we were not going to snowball her with questions that, you know, or take advantage of whatever that situation was. We made sure we had the okay for the things that we posted, whatever we did behind the scenes. But again, you and I both know, being an influencer, because it wasn't until maybe the end of last year where a lot of these leaders start calling me an influencer. I'm like, I'm not an influencer. I'm not getting paid yet. You know, like, that's what I am. And they're like, yeah, that's what you are. And so again, you look at that from that aspect, and you and I having that common ground together as sisters, like, you and I know, like, there are individuals some folks frown upon that, where you have to educate them of, like, if this is where the airmen are, why not push them towards the ones who you know that are going to give that or honest or credible information that's going to be out there, consistently credible information that's there. So to know that she was willing to come on our group, it just speaks high volumes to the consistency that we've had to honor and respect and protect the integrity of the page. So, but yes. Shout out to her. She definitely was. It definitely was a surreal moment that I still don't think I've even processed. Like, this really happened. This really happened.
It did.
This really happened.
Oh yeah, I love it. What you guys brought, and not just her, because you guys have had Diamond. I mean, you guys have had so many different people on the platform. We can't even name them all. But for her being the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, who took the opportunity to come into the space to meet airmen, people, you know, outside of uniform, and just where we are, that says a lot about her. She can come to the cookout. Chief, you can come to the cookout. Like, that's where we're at this point. It was great to watch. And so shout out to your team and what you guys are doing over there. We love that. And you guys are motivating all of us through those stories that you're bringing us. But let's go into those other pages, because it's not just that famous one of you that you know about. There's 6 of them that, first of all, we're gonna save that for later, because I need to find out where you find time to do all of this. This is like,
okay.
My own personal page, much less 6 pages. Tell us about the differences in those other 5 in this one.
So the major ones are, because initially I was just an admin on pages that focused around my career field. And so for me, it was a 2-part fold, because the job I sat in when I first, again, got back on social media, I wanted to know what issues and struggles the technicians and experts had at base levels, to make sure that we're not missing the mark, or if we push something out, what can we do differently? Or if there's something, I wanted to be in there and involved. And so when things would come up, I would push certain things out. And so it just so happened that the people who were over those pages were people who I've worked with, or who I've ran across or crossed paths with. So they would ask me, and I'm like, as long as I don't have to have a timetable. So for me, again, a lot of my innovation is based off of the circumstance I'm in. And it's not I got this idea like that. So it was how do I then become present if I'm not present? And it was learning to schedule my post and to be intentional about what I'm posting and when it comes out, so it comes off like I'm on there all the time. So that then trickled into, okay, Keyona, don't just give it to your career field. There are supervisors that are in these pages. So then there were a lot of pages that reached out to me that asked me to be an admin or moderator behind the scenes. But if I did not believe in what their page stood for, there were a lot that I declined. Or if I felt like they wanted me to only push content to their page, I was not okay with that. So one of the other dominant pages that I truly love is Air Force writing and self-improvement.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
so so Ashley Glass messaged me right before it. So I was on their page as far as like outside of the career field. I was on her page first before I was invited to be a part of UMU's admin team. And so she was like, you know what you post? Do you mind just being behind the scenes and helping with the QC? Because there would be people that would post things that they should not post on it. Because again, there's a thin line of, yes, we are in a technology age, but we work for the federal government. So there's certain things that should not be posted here. Definitely let them know, hey, something new has come out, go on your whatever. But they would let certain posts go through. And so anybody, again, I did do the bread out thing, but there has to be a sense of maturity that comes with it and wisdom, because then you are liable and responsible for the things that are posted on that group and
Yeah,
page.
you are.
And so she was like, I don't want this to mess up. I love what you bring to the table when it comes down to this. So I'm like, okay. From that dynamic, because it's a Air Force writing self-improvement page, a lot of the individuals there, they're looking for help with writing packages, evaluations, or getting that personal and professional development. And so when everybody was in the pandemic, we're at home, you still have evals and stuff to write. You still have to be able to mark these certain things off or whatever. So then that's, again, the circumstance came. So that then sparked me putting on a virtual mentorship. It was a speed mentorship day, and we literally had over 100 mentees, over 100 mentors from literally every major command, over 50 something AFSCs. We had command chiefs in the room. It was definitely a beautiful thing. But because of those relationships I had in those groups, it made it to where I had the influence to be able to push that stuff out there and individuals join. So with the Air Force Writing Self-Improvement page, that is one of the other big dominant pages that I'm on that's not tied to my career field. The other ones are more of my career field based pages. But yes.
So, first of all, the writing the self-improvement page must have saved mine and other people's careers, especially during the pandemic, because didn't nobody know how to write a pandemic bullet? You're like, what did I actually do? So I was deployed and I would go on there like, okay, what are people saying? What are they talking about? And everyone was having these different conversations. So it was beautiful to be able to connect with people, peers and leaders of all of all career fields across the Air Force that were having these real-time conversations of, this is 2020, a pandemic is happening, evals are still due. We still have to take care of our airmen. How do we do that? And so I follow that page as well. And I'm extremely supportive of those things, because that's, again, we go where the information is. I do love the fact that you said you did not join a page if you didn't believe in what they were doing, because at the end of the day, you have to ensure that what you attach your name to as well is credible, and what you bring to the table is appreciated as well. So and I like the fact that they're also willing to share information across pages. It's not just about growing one page versus the other, because they're valuable in their own specific way. What's so funny?
That because that has been, even on my end, that has been a very sticky situation. And because it's a two-part fold. So there were certain pages I was invited to where if it was too similar to what I was already a part of, I did not want it. I did not want a conflict of interest. But there are pages that are groups that's out there where they don't reference who they got whatever from, or it is about certain things. And for the most part, initially, I got caught up in the hype of that, because I was so protective of, like, don't take and steal from me, because a lot of those ideas that I made from previous jobs, not just my last one, individuals would tie their names to it, and I would not be attached to it or anything. Personally, you and I both know it is that's the inevitable in the technology era. But when we're talking about our jobs and careers where we have to stay competitive, we have to put down certain things. Somewhat, it's just one of those, there is room at that table, but there has to be a level of respect that goes there. So for me, it was a man, because again, some individuals might say, oh, I see your post 5-6 times because they're on all of these different groups, but they don't know. And again, I had to mute the noise, because what I knew that they didn't know was there's certain individuals who, let's say they had a bad argument with someone on a writing and self-improvement page. They will never go back to that page again, but they're on this page. So for me, I felt compelled because of my mindset of my job, when I had to push out that critical COVID information, I had to push it all. So you are going to see it 6 and 7 times. So my muscle memory and the way I had set up my content schedule, it was going to automatically go to those certain pages and groups and stuff. But we had to have a level of understanding. And so I then had to realize at the end of the day, if we take the analogy, if we take Chief Master Air Force Bass, she has her come have coffee, her coffee talks, right? Let's use that coffee as an analogy. Our professional personal development is coffee. Now, depending on what type of coffee you like, case in point, my mama loves Dunkin' Donuts coffee. She does not like Starbucks coffee. She don't understand it. I have an aunt who loves Starbucks coffee, but she will not get Starbucks coffee from Target. I have another friend that likes this Target one. I say all that to say, ultimately, it's all coffee. So it's all going to resemble in a certain way or light, because these professional developments, the key things we're hitting on, we all have it's the same goal, but the way it's executed is different. And for me, I might have a taste for a little Dunkin' Donuts today, coffee, but then tomorrow I might want to go to McDonald's and get their coffee, because their caramel frappe is good. And then during the winter months, I might want to go to Starbucks because they got the peppermint coffee. If you haven't had it, that is divine. So I say it to say, there's room at this table. But what I wanted to do, if we're going to use that analogy, is I wanted to be able to prepare those different types of coffees, and not just I'm a Starbucks coffee maker. I wanted to be able to make and produce coffee for different taste buds, different palates, different styles, but the baseline is still the same. Mm-hmm. So we still have that there, which I think is just the inevitable of us being humans. And so all I can do is just make sure my intentions are in the right place. I don't cross share everything to every page, but you will see a lot of it go to a lot of those pages, because again, that need is needed across the way. So I just made sure I set up front what I was willing to do. And if they weren't willing to respect that, and the other piece too was me having my own little personal page. I didn't understand the importance of it, but again, that circle of influence, just make it. So I just made it. So then it was, because then there were certain ideas I wanted to do where my groups and pages, they weren't on, the vision wasn't there. That's not the space they were in. And so then that's when my friends were like, well, you have your own personal page, so do that there. Oh, that's why. Okay. But yes, so I say that to say it's still finicky a little bit, and I'm hoping that there may be time and space where we all can come together and collab these groups. They are, some of them are different, but some of them are very similar, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. To me, I'm like, you could take a little bit of this, a little bit of that from everywhere. I just want to make sure my intentions were in the right place as far as like who I connected with, if I didn't believe in it, or if it was too similar to what I was already doing. Or what I was already connected to.
So I think variety is the spice of life, right? And so the coffee analogy was perfect. And so everyone's palate is going to be different for how they get this information, right? Some people want a hype man, and I could be like, okay, if I'm looking for a hype conversation today, I know to go over here. And if I'm just if I just want to get some information to help me right now to write my EPR, to do whatever without watching an interview of somebody, whatever, I go over here. It's still professional development nonetheless. It's still development for the person, but it's just a little different for whatever, your palate is that day. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So I do love that you have pushed your personal page, and you're trying to do that because you are doing everything, okay? Everything. First of all, I want y'all to look at my shirt.
I know.
I want y'all to look at my shirt, okay? Look, can y'all see it? Let me make sure y'all can see it. It says, I'm coming for everything they said I couldn't have.
Yes.
This shirt, I purchased this shirt that was designed by Keyona. Listen, if you haven't gotten a journal from her, I mean, when I say she is everywhere and doing everything, I am literally dressed in the Keyona original right now. You know what I mean? How did you even get into that? And what is that like to put your creative thoughts out here for people to purchase?
Surreal again. And it was a combination of things. I think so the two of us being in the military for so long, I wanted to have something that was not connected or tied to the military at all. And I wanted to just try something. And if you are a genuine creators, once we create, we're bored and we want to move on to the next. And so that's where I had found myself. And so during the pandemic, we just had more time to be in the house. So YouTube University, I'm learning about passive income, and I'm like, really? So I'm looking things up, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm gonna try. So that's what started the shirts, because I have sayings. I'm an analogy person, and I love wearing graphic tees. I will forever go into a good Walmart in the men's section. They have these funny shirts, not adulting or whatever these little slang things are. And I was like, man, it would be cool if I could make my own. So then to just educate yourself, you know what I mean? Especially with us being in a time where there's so much technology at our fingertips and knowledge at our fingertips. But the downside or the dark side of COVID is that isolation piece. So I still do have bouts with depression or feeling down and depressed. People didn't know I moved during this time where on the social media it seemed really, really good. And I'm a single parent, and so I could not bring my baby boy with me for 8 months. And so going and talking to therapist through Military One Source, one of the things that she encouraged me to do again was to journal. And so as I'm journaling, one of our conversations, she was like, what is on the front of your journal? Does it speak to you? Does it make you want to pick it up? And I was like, no. And so she was like, well, why do you have it? I said, because you told me I had to. Right. And so she was like, you need to have a journal that looks like you. So I go into, if you are a true journal planner person, you know, you can go into a good Marshalls, Target, Ross. You could go into a good DD's if you in a certain area. You could go into a good Target. I said Target, Walmart, those spots. And I would see certain sayings or certain colors that spoke to me. But then again, representation, I didn't see anybody that looked like me or that would make me want to be like, girl, let me pick this up. So me already doing drop shipping or design through Amazon, I saw they had a space where I could create low content books, i.e. your planners, your journals and stuff like that. And so when I made it, one of my homegirls had came by to pick some up for my son. And she was like, where you get this from? I said, oh girl, I made that. Because for me, again, the innovation sparked from the circumstance I was in. And so I made it, but you making it, I get it for a very lesser, a cheaper price than what the consumer would get because I'm the author. Yeah. And so she was like, well, can I get one? I was like, you would want one of these? She was like, Keyona, stop. Yeah. And I was like, no, for real. So literally I put it out there and you saw what it was. And so I just put it, I was like, okay, let's see. So then I've had people hit me up like, hey ma'am, are you the seller of I'm a seller. I sell things. I do.
Yep. You design things, you sell things.
I design things.
You design things that speak to people, like my t-shirt. Right. And when I saw that, I was like, enough said. Because I don't even have to speak. Right?
I'm not the hype man, yes. You know the hype man.
I'm out here and be like, let my t-shirt say it for me. So, and this is kind of up my alley as well.
What I said, right? It is. I said what I said. So yeah.
Right. That's a matter of fact, that's another t-shirt I need to have. That's it. That's it. Period. I said what I said on the front, period. On the back. Just leave it.
Still ain't changed it. I still and the answer's still the same. Yes. Mm-hmm. So yes. That's right.
Before we wrap up though, we're not gonna get necessarily too deep into this, but you know, every time I think about like the Robin Williams story, right? We all know what happened with Robin Williams before the suicide, and it was interesting to see his life on camera. He was the funny guy. He was the happy guy. He was the personable guy. And behind the scenes, he was suffering through depression and isolation and had a lot of other things going on. And so, again, you are doing so many different things and you have so many wonderful things going for you, but you're still human, and
Right.
life still happens. And so let's talk a little bit about that, and how do you what would you say to the people out here listening to remind them that what they see from Key in front of the camera, you're human as well, and much, much more than just what they see?
Exactly. I would just let them know, like, the one thing I had to keep reminding myself is, even if I'm having a bad day, to still be able to put on and push through it. I'm not being fake to myself. Where I'm like, at one point I was like, man, until I feel better, until I have my son and everything is situated, maybe I should just stop doing everything, because I felt like I was being fake, or certain um circles of influence or individuals in my life was like, well, you doing all this smiling and I know you're not happy. And I'm like, well, how should I be sitting here? Because then it got to a point where because of the isolation, the outlet to be able to connect online was definitely therapeutic for me. And I am a very private person. I'm outspoken, but I'm private. And so being in this space a lot, individuals do want to see you and meet. And I'm like, I'm not at that space yet. So should I stop, or just, what do I do? I would just let them know, like, even if you're in these type of spaces, if it brings you joy or you have an outlet with it, to definitely stick with it. But seeing us or seeing influencers that are out here, just know that we still have feelings, we still bleed, we still, go through things. And if anybody is embarking on this, to make sure that you have a circle of trust and influence of individuals where no matter what, they're going to, have your back and keep it 100 with you, and keep it honest with you, and pour into you, and remind you, like, it's okay to take a knee, or like you doing it or whatever. But just know that sometimes what comes with that too is you do open yourself up for criticism a lot. So I had to get to a place of canceling that noise, or intentionally not going online, or intentionally not, if I knew I was doing certain shows, knowing that, okay, these individuals may call, want to talk to me a couple of days after to have dialogue or feedback that I didn't solicit for, where I'm like, man, can I just revel in this moment? I then had to set up my own boundaries. Definitely have your own boundaries. And if you are a friend of an influencer, just letting you know, but you being able to be around, and they don't have to put on a face, and they can just chill, is so golden. A lot of times that is exactly what it is that they want to do, is just to chill and take the mask off, or the demand of like having to be the hype or whatever. So it definitely has come with its challenges, but just make sure that you have good people, circle of trust, and be open. You know what I mean? I didn't know you before the pandemic, but you have definitely been a constant in my life. There is a bracelet that you gifted me, and so I recently just had to take it off to, because moving and stuff. But it definitely, there's certain individuals who don't. There's a lot of people who I'm very close to that will never understand this space.
Mm-hmm.
But then to have crossed paths with someone like you, where I know you will always understand this space,
Mm-hmm.
is definitely key and golden. And we're so big on, and I was at one point, no new friends. I don't want nobody new. I'm
Tell me
good. And
too.
that's not true. That's definitely not true. I had to learn that lesson quick, because
Yep.
I'm very territorial with my friends. I'm
Yep.
very, protective. I don't want them to be hurt. She good. We got it. And
Yep.
I'm like, but if I'm not physically there, or it's okay if they have more and it's
Yeah.
not going to, take the place of me or whatever.
Yeah.
Definitely, like, having that circle of trust with you, because you don't know what it's going to be like or what it's going to pull from you until you're in those situations and in them
Mm-hmm.
circumstances,
Mm-hmm.
where, like, if there's times where I'm sick, I'm at the hospital, with my child, or I had a death in the family, but I still have my posts that are posting.
Yeah.
People, I'm trying to get in touch with you, but you sure got time to be on social media.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I've scheduled my post. Like, it's
Yeah.
a lot that comes with that you don't necessarily, you don't know, that it, like, what may unfold while you're in the seat, or how you may react to that, because you may in this moment be like, oh, that's fine if it comes up, but literally when you're faced with it may be something completely different, where you're like,
Yeah.
ooh, this is a lot more than what I thought. So to
Yeah.
just be open-minded, be flexible with it, but your circle of influence is definitely crucial.
Yeah.
Because to me, those are the ones that can pour into you when you don't have it to pour in yourself, or they could see or help you pivot and maneuver when you can't see it because you're in the thick of it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's definitely
You need those people behind you in general, but if you're going to be out there in social media, because, similar to you, I do this because I find joy in the space. But
yes.
it's not always easy because sometimes there are attacks that come and you second guess yourself, and some days are draining. I have left the emergency room and had to get on a podcast, right? But based off my choice, because I want to be here and get these folks' stories out, but it's not always easy. So that circle of influence, your trust circle becomes vital to your growth, and not just your growth, but your peace,
Right.
right? Your peace. To be able to take off the mask, per se, when you're behind the scenes with these people and you don't have to show up as what they see you as, your persona on the internet, that says a lot about those people. So I am glad that we crossed paths and connected. This has been great. What I love about you the most is that, well, first of all, you're a wealth of knowledge, right? You just be doing everything. What I love about you is that, you and I have never met in person. We've been talking now for, I don't even know how long, for
I
months.
know.
Tell
Yep.
you how long it's been, but we've had, in my mind, I think we've created a space in this friendship that has grown, which is great. But you're always there to give. You're always there to share. You do not keep the information to yourself. You're like, I know this thing and I think it can benefit you. Here you go.
Yes.
That,
Yes.
my
Yes.
dear, and I have to publicly say that, my dear, is such a lost art in this day and age. People
Yes.
just don't do that. So the world, the universe, baby Jesus is going to continue to bless you.
You are so
Um,
silly.
the sweet
You are
baby
so
Jesus in the
silly.
main job, for
You're
real.
the
He's gonna
same. You
continue
are the
to bless
same.
you
You, man, I'm
because
telling you, you're
we
the
need
same.
that.
Yes. You
So
definitely are the same. You bring that to the
thank
table.
you.
And I want to tell you on your platform, like, to see what you do, you know what I mean? It just is it's a force to be reckoned with, but it also is inspiring to know, like, you can even take down moments. When it's yours and it's your baby, you can come back whenever you want to. You can venture off, do other things, and come back to it. You have definitely been a constant. What I do like is, I think we have been cool now for over a year,
Yeah.
but it is what I like
Like
about you.
3 years, because the pandemic is like,
I was gonna say about,
we're done with that
almost
time.
3. Yeah, yeah. But what I love about you is, one of the things I love is, if the sky is blue, it's gonna be blue no matter who's around.
Yeah.
If it's blue, it's gonna be blue. And what's understood don't have to be explained.
Yeah.
I love the fact that you and I don't have to talk every day. And you rocking, I'm rolling. You need something, I got it. Vice versa. We have stood in the gap for each other.
Yeah.
And so I'm extremely thankful that God allowed our paths to cross, and you stuck. Cause I don't know if you thought you was going somewhere.
Listen,
You
I say
stuck.
the same thing because I'm always like, okay, I don't need no new friends, and just, whatever. That was,
Right.
you grow and you learn, and then
Yes.
you meet people, right? Like, I connect with someone like you, and I was like, well, where's she been my whole life? I
Right.
need
I'm
her.
like, where you been? It must have been wet. I don't know what I was doing before I met you. It must have been
Exactly.
real
Like,
wet.
wait a minute, she
Right.
should have been on my team. I love this. I love her.
No,
So I
yes,
am
yes,
so glad that we finally connected on here, and we're able to
yes.
bring the folks a little bit of your story. I mean, there's so much more to tell about just who you are and what you do, but to be what I consider the Air Force social media influencer, to bring the stories of our top leaders from a human aspect to the regular Air Force member listening, and not even just Air Force, because DoD. There's a lot of other prior service veterans, all different
Yes.
walks of life, military affiliated on these pages, and you and your teams across six pages on social media. Listen, y'all, let me tell y'all something. I used
No,
to be
I had
like,
to cut back too.
I'll be like, what?
I
Listen, that
know.
scheduling and posting is
The
real
schedule
because it
post is
seems like
real.
she is everywhere. And I'm like, it's a
I
ding,
would get messages
Keyona,
like, "Get
ding,
me in the
Keyona,
bed," and I'm
ding.
like, "Huh?
That
I am
scheduling
in
and
the
posting is
bed."
great. And you have figured out the strategy to reach
Yes,
people. You have figured out the strategy of how to be present when you cannot actually be present. And we love it and we appreciate it so, so very much. So, my final question I like to ask all my guests here on the Camouflage Beauty platform. This is your mentor moment. This is your opportunity to just give to the world that's listening now. What would you tell women out there who are listening just about the space that you're in?
I think if I had to tell them one thing, to not forget the power of yet. You don't know how to do this yet. You have not had this interview yet. You have not been able to cross over to do such and such yet, because your words have power, and your mind and your body believe what you tell it. And so don't get discouraged. When you first are out there, you see some of my first videos, literally I look like I'm holding my phone with like dial-up internet, and I'm sweating everywhere because I sweat fast when I'm nervous or when I'm like in a rush or whatever. And certain conversations I just couldn't hold, and I'm just like, what in the world? And I had to remind myself of the power of yet. That I don't know how to do this yet, meaning that there's still time and space for that, and to just have and set realistic goals, plan your content or plan your time. And that's with anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be with content. If you have folks that's under you, plan your quarters, and don't forget the power of yet. We have not done this yet. And I got the power of yet from having to do virtual school with my first grader, where he would get frustrated and I'm looking up stuff like, how do I do, this? So that the power of those affirmations. And so one of those chapters was the power of yet. You don't know how to do something yet, which leaves room that there's still time, and just try it. And if you see that there is 1,000,001, the internet is oversaturated. However, just like that bread aisle, whoever's supposed to gravitate to you will, and they will find you. And all you have to do is just stay consistent and make sure that your heart is in the right place, and everything will fall into place. It may be your time, just not your turn. So just continue to press, continue to push until you get to where you're trying to be. That's it.
I don't even have any closing comments, right? Because I'm in behind the scenes here taking notes, like, yes, like I need to write that. Let's get that on the front of the journal and a t-shirt. I need that in my life. Yes. I will be the first customer to purchase one of those. The power of yet. You don't know how to do it yet. Yet. I love that. Simple and powerful at the same time.
Yes. Yes. They thought I had did the Airman Pop, the Funko Pop person. They were like, "Did you collab with him?" I said, "Funko Pop don't know me yet." And so a couple people caught it. They was like, "Oh, I like that." And I was like, the power of yet. And it was so crazy is there's so many people that purchased it, where then again, the mentors, they were like, "Did you put this on an affiliate? Da 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 da. You come on, Keyona, you need to know your power, who you are." But I'm like, I don't know it yet. But yes, the power of yet. Sure.
Oh my God. I can't wait to see where you go from here and what is next for you. We got our eyes on you to see how you continue to grow in and out the Air Force. Whatever it is that you touch is going to turn gold. And I absolutely love that about you. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest today was Keyona Campbell. It's been our absolute pleasure, Keyona, again, to have you. Love you, boo.
Love you.
All right, y'all, that's it for me. Until next time, be kind.
Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. You can find us on the book, IG, or Twitter. Email us your stories to camobeautystories@gmail.com. That's it for me, y'all. Until next time, be kind to your body, soul, and mind.
Come on, camouflage.